So the big question here, is Andrew Garfield worthy of an Oscar nomination in this movie? I thought he crushed it in the eyes of Tammy Faye, but he gets to lead this film directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and my simple answer to this question is yes. Let's talk about it. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. I had the opportunity to check out Tick, Tick, Boom, which is the brand new movie directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Andrew Garfield, and a great supporting cast. It is a musical. We're going to talk about it right now. Spoiler-free. Let's do it. So on the cusp of his 30th birthday, a promising young theater composer navigates love, friendship, and the pressures of life as an artist in New York City. Not only that, but he's writing what he hopes to be the great American musical. And days before he's due to showcase his work in a make-or-break performance, John is feeling the pressure from pretty much everywhere. From his girlfriend Susan, who dreams of an artistic life beyond New York City, his friend Michael, who has moved on from his dream and a life of financial security, amidst an artistic community being ravaged by the AIDS epidemic. With the clock ticking, tick, tick, boom, John is at a crossroads and faces the question everyone must reckon with: what are we meant to do with the time that we have? And Andrew Garfield plays Jonathan Larson, who is an American composer and playwright known for his musicals such as Tick, Tick, Boom, which is, of course, this film, and Rent. So, I'll be honest, I'm not as familiar, or at least before this movie, with Jonathan Larson's life, right? I am familiar with his work, but in terms of what he was able to accomplish and kind of the creative process explored within his days leading up to his standout musicals in Tick, Tick, Boom and Rent, this was interesting for me because I know it's somewhat of a passion project from Lin-Manuel Miranda, and it's his directorial debut behind the camera for a feature-length film like this. So all of these things coming together, and then you cast Andrew Garfield. Not only Garfield, but Alexandra Shipp and Joshua Henry and Robin de Jesús and Vanessa Hudgens, and just a great supporting cast. Even Bradley Whitford and Richard Kind popping up, which was pretty cool. And I love the look of this film going in just based off of the trailer. While it may not be as colorful and outstandingly shot as a musical we saw earlier in The Heights, this feels like a way more of a personal musical than what we've had in some time. And, of course, based off of a full-on true story is pretty cool as well. So what did I think of this movie? I will say this, it's a very distinct style of movie, so what we're dealing with here, like I said, is the creative process of John Larson kind of pushing himself to almost the point of misery in this movie because he's unable to come up with the next great American musical. And a big theme of this movie is the clock is winding down. Tick, tick, boom, right? He's almost 30. It kind of reminds me of that scene earlier in the year in Bo Burnham's Inside when he turns 30, and it's just like, okay, what now? What can I accomplish next? And Larson spent his entire life, or at least the last handful of years, working on what he believes the next big thing, this futuristic rock opera called Superbia. And you see how that kind of plays out in the film, but the way to shoulder his failure or the failures of his past is coming up with another autobiographical take, and that was Tick, Tick, Boom. So we see the process behind creating these plays, and the film is, I mean, if you're not paying attention, if you're not completely invested, we jump through so many different settings and points in time, right? We have Andrew Garfield recollecting all of these events by telling the story on stage of this story within the story. And this is a very creative and distinct way of telling a story. I keep saying the word story like this, but you have Larson's work, right? Tick, tick, boom, kind of combined with Lin-Manuel Miranda's vision. And that takes a distinct turn on what maybe even I expected this movie to do in the first act, because it's a lot of setup. And, you know, Larson's very aware that he can just kind of put all of this to the side and take the route of his friend, whom he confronts at a point in the film, basically saying, you were in my shoes once. What made you want to go the way of the easy money, right? Less of a creative process, yes, but you have an established career and a life that feels more welcome, especially to a creative and artistic mind like Larson, who has to go through so much just to get his artistic vision out there. And Michael, while supportive, basically says, well, the money is good. This is where I want to be right now, because that just didn't really work out for me, but that doesn't mean it can't work out for you. And Larson continues to take these haymakers thrown at him throughout the film. Now, you may sit back and say, okay, right, he could take the easy way out? Why does he continue? But the idea of pursuing and doing everything you can to achieve that passion and taking those lumps all throughout the film, whether it be in his personal life or his creative life, is a really cool and relatable concept for a lot of people, especially people that have that artistic sensibility about them, especially if you're a theater student or just someone who is obsessed with this world. I feel like the movie's going to play even better for you because you're going to get behind this creative process and maybe even relate more to the way that Lin told this story, which is just so distinctly different. Now, because of that, it may not be as audience-friendly because we're cutting back and forth between so many different moments in his life, a small portion of his life, but throughout those moments, we're also getting these great musical numbers. Now, I will say, while there are one or two standouts that are just incredible, especially the final number by Garfield, who is spectacular in this movie as a singer, right? We'll talk about his performance, but his voice, my God, who knew? He's incredible. But the musical numbers were solid, right? They're not the most incredible looking or feeling or even sounding musical numbers I've ever seen, but they're good, barring one or two that are just outstanding. But what works about this movie more so is the emotion that you get from his story, how it plays out, what he has to deal with, and then when he finally sees that this passion he has is all worth it at the end of the day. And again, based on true story, I won't go into specifics on how this plays out, but oh my gosh, I just didn't know a lot about this story, and learning while getting one of the best performances of the year in Andrew Garfield's portrayal was great. Garfield really does, genuinely gives what I believe to be, maybe, I'll have to dive into it more, but his best performance yet. The heart, the passion, the idea of, having to dance and sing and all of these things that I didn't know Andrew Garfield would be as good at. He even turns into Spider-Man. No, that's coming in December. But at least we think. It showcases the grueling process of an artist and tells us all of the things that he had to sacrifice to deliver something that, has fans and will continue to have fans all around the world. But just to see this story and the portrayal and Lin's direction, which, again, may not be the most outstanding directed movie I've seen all year, but for his first film, really good job. And the creativity that goes into a story like this, one that's so somewhat complex as it plays out, is really great to see. My biggest issues with the film, again, I just think the way that the story is told and weaved, I'm not sure if everyone's going to get behind that. The musical numbers, while really good, and it was great to see the performances, I do believe they could have been shot maybe just a bit better, a bit more color in there, and the cinematography, while good, not outstanding like I needed it to be. I also believe the story plays it somewhat safe. We could have dived into maybe one or two more things to give us some more complexity, not the most complex musical I've ever seen, but overall, Tick, Tick, Boom surprised me with the way it was coming together on screen, and then the third act delivering one of the most emotional gut punches I've seen all year. It's one of the only times this year I've got a bit emotional while watching, and that's that powerhouse performance that, again, I believe warrants a nomination. I don't know if he gets that nomination, right? We'll have to see how everything plays out, but right now, if I was voting, he would have my vote. Before I give you guys my score, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below, are you watching Tick, Tick, Boom in theaters this weekend or on Netflix on the 19th? So, Tick, Tick, Boom has every ounce of heart and soul required to make for a memorable musical. What elevates this already beautiful story is Andrew Garfield giving his best performance yet. He is just incredible and owns this role from start to finish. I'm going an 80% with my score. I believe this is one of the better musicals I've seen over the past couple of years, and I believe it's going to work for the target audience and even more general audience goers. I think there's just enough heart in there, and if you're an Andrew Garfield fan, oh my goodness, you're going to eat this thing up. All right, guys, I'll see you soon.